now.
I'll just make a joke about it if we hear you.
I'll try not to be like full volume.
Yeah.
I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10 by 7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Fuck.
Yes, everybody, it is me. Welcome to all of you wonderful and fantastic people out there in the Muddied verse. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. There's a lot of things you can be doing on a Thursday evening, and you have no idea how humbled I am that you choose to spend your Thursdays here with me on the Writer's Block, a Muddied Waters Media production. First and foremost, allow me to thank the wonderful and fine people at Nakamal at Home for the kava that I am drinking on today's episode. It's wonderful mind kava from the beautiful island of Vanuatu. To the members of Nakamal and to all of you, I say, Bula Banaka. Got a fantastic guest tonight. I'm so excited. But before we get to her, we have to pay some bills. So, this episode is brought to you by the Libertarian Party of Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing caucus in the Libertarian Party. It's the fastest growing caucus and the largest waffle related caucus anywhere, ever, possibly. That's what I'm going with. The Gravy King, Tom Queter. Tom Queter is rolling for state senate in New York. And he is rolling because he can't actually walk. He pays us to say these things. It's not me. His slogan is "I run better than Albany." So you understand the kind of humor that this man has, and that's why he pays us to say the awkward things. So everybody out there, go to tomfor52.com. That's TOMFOR52.com and support Tom Queter today. Mudwater, the most aptly named sponsor that we could possibly ever have. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, man, you know what would be really good right now? Not a fresh, hot cup of delicious coffee. but a drink that tastes substantially worse with less caffeine. Have I got good news for you? Mud water is a coffee alternative with 1/7 of the caffeine. It contains masala chai, cacao, mushrooms, turmeric, sea salt, cinnamon, and that is it. It tastes exactly like you think those things put together will taste. I recommend adding honey to it. I also hear that adding some French vanilla creamer to it isn't bad either. If you are one of those who is tired of coffee, go to muddywatersmedia.com/mud to make the switch today. I drink it occasionally, but I will never switch from coffee. Cumberland Cannabis. Now, if you are tired of your Valium and you want something, I don't even know if Valium's still a thing, but if you're tired of that Valium that's probably expired by now, go to cumberlandcannabisco.com and pick up some ethical, viable, and effective Delta 8 CBD, which basically means that it is weed. It is weed that they are basically selling. From what it's good. It's just good. That's all I got on that. So cumberlandcannabisco.com to make the switch from your Valium to Cumberland Cannabis Co. Delta 8 CBD today. Stitches and Glitches and Defy the Power. They make these wonderful tumblers. They are fantastic tumblers. I honestly can't say anything bad about these tumblers for the first ad that we've ever had. They work really well. They work really well. If you want to have one made, they will do customizations for free. They keep drinks cold forever. They keep them hot forever. Whatever it is that you are looking for in your drink to do temperature-wise, this will do it for you. It's made from like NASA-aged stuff. And you can go to stitchesandglitches.com or defythepower.com and use code MuddyTumbler for 10% off on your order, except for customizations, because customizations are free. So you can get all of your customizations done for free for not 10% off. Joe Solosky. Joe Solosky is running for governor of Pennsylvania, and he is the only choice that anybody should make for governor of Pennsylvania. This man is a true hero of so many people, and he deserves to sit in the governor's mansion that he may sell or rent out. He may put it on Airbnb. I'm not really sure. But if you want Pennsylvania to be free, Joe Solosky and you are the key to Pennsylvania's success. And Jack Casey. Jack Casey. How much can I say about Jack Casey? He wrote some books. He says that they're fantasy. And what I know about Jack Casey means I will never read these books, because what his predilections are, I don't want to read about. People tell me they're good. I don't know. I've never read any books in common with those people either, outside of the usual libertarian fare. So if you want to trust people that I don't know if I can agree with, go to theroyalgreen.com and you can pick up the Royal Green in silver throned and crowned by gold. And if somebody can tell me what the cover of Crowned by Gold is supposed to be, because I only see one thing and it's dirty, please let me know what it is. So my guest tonight is the wonderful, the hilarious, the woman who finds me so exceptionally funny, Anna Johnson, who is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Washington State. Please welcome with me, Anna Johnson. Hi.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. I am so excited that you are here.
Here's what I want to know about Jack Casey. Shout out to Jack. I think I'm going to see him tomorrow. I hear that from Tom Woods that you can make a lot of money on free ebooks. So, Jack, when are you going to release some of your fantasy series as a free ebook? Because I know that Matt and I will be all over that.
Yeah, 100%. Jack, you release your books for free on ebook, I will 100% download them and then make fun of them more. Yeah, Jack. I love Jack Casey. He is a fantastic human being. And the real reason I don't want to read his books is because if I've been pushing crap to people, I'm gonna feel bad to the people. And if they're good, I'm gonna feel bad for everything that I've said about his books. And revealing personal information about Jack online, I would feel bad about these things. So I try to just avoid them altogether and just not read his books and just continue to make fun of him.
Well, that sounds like a really winning strategy. You know what?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't read Jack's books yet, but I'm definitely going to read them. Just because you say that you're not going to read them, I'm going to read them twice, once for me and once for you.
That's right. And if you can give me a 1,000-page essay on each book, that'd be great. So that way I'll know what to say on the show.
Oh, no problem. That's like half an hour. I was an
Right.
English major, man. That's like I wake up an hour before class, type it up.
Right. Yeah. I used to pump out 1,000 words in 20, 30 minutes, and it was great. I'd just be like, all right, 1,000 words, done. And now I sit there at a computer and I stare at it and I'm like, in the beginning, where's my mud water? Because that's not going to work here. I'm going to need coffee. I'm going to need so much coffee today. So how I usually like to start off my shows, and after making fun of Jack Casey, of course, is asking my guest how it is they found themselves on the island of misfit toys known as the Libertarian Party. Because not many of us came here naturally. We weren't raised in the party. So how is it that you found yourself here with this group of people that would be on the island with Pinocchio at the end where it gets kind of terrifying?
Yeah, well, kind of terrifying sometimes is that's a word for it. Well, I grew up, my family's real conservative. I got a lot of Trump people in my family. And I went to college in Seattle and I made friends with a lot of really liberal progressive people. And I was what I call liberty curious for a long time. So I think I voted for Gary Johnson in like 2012. But I also really liked Paul Ryan. I voted for Dwayne The Rock Johnson in 2016, wrote in Dwayne The Rock Johnson. By the way, everyone in Washington blames me now because Gary Johnson lost his chance at major party status in Washington by like 9 votes or something.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, it's obviously your fault.
Yeah. So, I came from the right, but there was a lot of things that just kind of stuck in my craw, like war. And being friends with a lot of really compassionate lefty people got me thinking about the things that the government does to people who can't fight back or who don't have a lot of resources to fight back. So yeah, so eventually what happened, I mean, I was kind of like the token conservative among my friends, and I kind of liked being that. And but then in about 2016 or 17, I thought like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this Trump stuff. I didn't vote for him. I thought he was garbage. He is garbage.
He is garbage.
But I showed up at a Libertarian Party, somebody's campaign event, and I just wanted to like stand in the back and eat the food. And 6 months later, I got voluntold to run for the board of the county party. I won with 9 votes. 9 people voted for me. And then a year after that, I was on the board of the state party, got appointed because there were some roles that were not filled. And then I got voluntold to be chair, ran unopposed. My vice chair and I looked at each other for several months and said, well, you should run. No, you should run. So it's wild here. It is. Seattle. I mean, I don't live in Seattle. I live in Tacoma, which is way better than Seattle. Right. But I lived in Seattle for many years, and Seattle is, people say, as King County goes, so goes the state, because whatever the culture is in Seattle, it's like that's what dominates all of Washington, because it's like 60 or 70% Democrat voters, and then everybody in the rest of the state just has to take what they get.
Right. Yeah. So I have a fictional love affair with Seattle. Seattle to me is like one of the most poetically awesome cities because I really liked grunge music and Cameron Crowe back in the 90s. And I was just like, man, he makes Seattle.
Say anything.
Yeah, exactly. Lloyd Dobler sitting there. Man, holding the
All
stereo
null and
up.
void.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm always like, Seattle looks so amazing. The movie Singles was the one that really sold me on it. I was like, I'm going to move to Seattle one day. And then I went to visit. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not moving here. So like I've always been in love with Seattle. And I just thought for years, I thought that Washington was just this massively liberal place. And then I have friends that they kind of jump between Idaho and Washington. And they usually go over to Washington and then get mad at Seattle and then go back to Idaho. And then they'll move back over to Washington and then they go back to Idaho. But they keep going back to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is one of the most beautiful places in America that I've ever been to. And I'm like, well, I mean, you're not losing here. Yeah, Coeur d'Alene's gorgeous. So I've always loved it there, but I found out that Washington has deserts. That blew my mind.
Yeah, that is one of the things I love the most about Washington. Like, I hate the government here so much. It's terrible. But my favorite thing about Washington is how many different landscapes we have. We have the ocean, like the actual ocean on the West Coast. We have the whole Puget Sound, which there's nowhere else like it in America. There's a lot of lakes and stuff, but we have the Strait of Juan de Fuca and all these islands, and there's nothing else quite like it, I think. We have mountains, real mountains, not like the Appalachian Mountains, which are like hills. We have the deserty place. We have rolling plains. We have lakes. We have waterfalls. We have a rainforest, like a huge rainforest. There's so much here, and there's tons of outdoorsy people. And there's so many. There's just so much to see and so much to do,
so much.
Especially if you like being outdoors, or even if you just like to look at the outdoors.
Fair, because I'm more of that. Like a day hike, I'm okay with. I'm not camping. Like I'll go out during the day and like walk around somewhere and be like, oh, look at that tree. That's a nice tree. That tree seems like it's been here a long time. And then I'm happy to go to an enclosure that was built that has a shower and a bathroom with a door. Because
we call that glamping.
Well, no, I like to have like a hotel or an Airbnb. Not a cabin.
Step up from glamping.
Right. No, I like to go on vacation and then go on hikes and then not do that some days.
Well, if you live in Washington, you can do that because everything is driving distance.
Right. Pretty much everything in Washington's driving distance. So I went to my buddy's wedding in Coeur d'Alene, which is how I found out about it. And it was right after Washington legalized weed. And so on my way back, I stopped in Spokane and I picked up some very 100% legal Washington weed. And then I immediately got onto an airplane and flew to where it was not legal. And they were like, they like saw it in my bag and they said, you can't fly with this. And I was flying from Spokane to Seattle. I said, oh, I'm just flying to Seattle. And they said, oh, okay, you're fine then.
The TSA?
Yeah.
Oh man, I've always wondered about this.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just flying to Seattle.
Usually they don't find it, but
yeah, no, they found it. I didn't hide it even a little bit. It was sitting there right in the top, and they were like, "You can't fly out of state with this." And because I was going from Spokane to Seattle, and then from Seattle to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati to Tampa, and I said, "No, I'm just going to Seattle." And they said, "Oh, okay, you're okay," and they let me fly with it. And so, on my way after. That was actually the day that Delta, if you remember this day, because I do very well, that was the day that Delta shit the bed and all of Delta shut down for like 6 hours. And I was flying Delta that day. So I was stuck in an airport.
Oh, this is like 10 years ago or something, right?
That was like 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
So you were stuck in the airport with a lot of weed?
Yep.
And did you smoke it in the airport?
I did not, but I did get edibles and I did eat those in the airport.
Perfect. Oh, perfect. I mean, how could the TSA even find edibles? I mean, you brought them with you to where are you going?
Well, they found, to Cincinnati. Yeah, I went to Cincinnati and then to Tampa. it was like a 14-hour trip already, and then Delta shit the bed, and I ended up being, it was like an 18, 19, 20-hour trip.
Well, not as
Uh,
bad as Southwest shit the bed last week.
no, well, in all fairness, what Delta's issue was that day was a technical issue or a computer glitch that made them lose everybody's assignments, and they were like, "Uh oh, what do we do?" When Southwest shit the bed, Southwest wanted their pilots to do something that the pilots didn't want to do, and they just said, "No, well, we're just not showing up this weekend. Enjoy your millions of dollars lost."
Yeah, they changed their tune real quick too, didn't they?
Oh yeah, real fast. Um,
Money
so
talks.
so since Washington is such a diverse, sprawling state with a lot of different viewpoints, because like I know that you've got a military base there, and you've got like
Oh yeah.
Spokane is more liberal, and Seattle is a lot more liberal. Um, how do you kind of message liberty across a state like this?
That is a great question. And that's funny. I wonder how our Spokane libertarians would feel about you saying Spokane is more liberal. Because the perception in Seattle, at least, is that Spokane and everybody on the east side is just like crazy right wingers. We have a lot of different people across the spectrum, and we have a lot of them in the party. A lot of people from different places. We have definitely some kind of like who came from lefty places, more like civil liberties libertarians, people who are really aware of, how zoning laws affect minorities, and
Right.
who are definitely into, getting police to be accountable for things. Sometimes people who come to libertarianism from the right have a harder time, getting over the kind of police back the blue thing. We have a lot of disaffected Republicans, a lot of people who are just kind of like, have always been sort of conservative, but they just can't stand Donald Trump, or they can't stand how garbage everybody in Congress is and does exactly the same thing as all of the Democrats while they're
Right.
like theatrically railing against them. We have like kind of a whole contingent also, especially in the last few years, of like really rebellious Mises Caucus type ANCAPs. And I sort of feel like this is my theory that states with really like really authoritarian and really like super progressive, do everything with, the sort of woke lefty thing. The state governments that are like that tend to have they tend to provoke a bigger reaction of people who are like super anarchist, or like really super free market in the Libertarian Party. So we have a lot of those as well. And we have a lot of them represented in the party membership and in the party volunteers. So what we do is because there's a temptation to fall into, whatever the left or the right is doing. And a lot of times we agree with the right on what the left is doing, and we agree with the left on what the right is doing.
Exactly.
But we have to differentiate ourselves, and they get into these just all these little spats about every sort of little cultural thing. And what we try to stick to is, you have to stick to the principles. If you're wondering, whether to post this or whether to, what stance to take on it, stick to the platform. That is why we have it. Stick to the libertarian principles of the illegitimacy of the use of force. Don't get bogged down in whatever cultural thing, or just, owning the libs just because we want to, or, like don't just follow what they're saying. We have to stick to our principles, because our principles are not reactionary to the right or reactionary to the left. They are a third path. Oh, what's your
No, you're
pup's
supposed to.
name?
Her name is Ichigo, and normally she sits outside while Sarah is here. And usually she will just sit behind me during an entire episode if Sarah is not here. But today she is not wanting to do that,
Well,
and I'm
welcome. Well,
just gonna
obviously she
hold her.
heard me talking about libertarian principles, and she's
She,
like, I
of
gotta get down
course.
on this. So yeah, that's how we do it. Stick to the principles, stay in our lane. That will always lead you to the right place, when you're always pointing towards the right goal, rather than like trying to become more left against the right, or vice versa.
Right. So I know that you had mentioned that this is a year of forming structure for the LP of Washington. what are you attempting to do new with your affiliate, with your state affiliate?
Oh man, there's so many things. The party for the past couple of years had been in what I kind of call like a tilling the ground phase. We had, as I'm sure is not surprising to you to hear, we've had some dramas and traumas in the state party, 8 to 10 years ago. Lots of, how these things happen. And the party was kind of coming back from a difficult place. And several years were spent in, coming back to financial stability and being really good stewards of people's money and settling down from the drama. And so when I joined, there weren't a lot of people running teams. We had kind of a bare bones board, and so I joined, and other people joined, and we got a lot of new members in the past couple of years. So now with our new board, who many of them are all of them are pretty engaged. We have a new events director. We have a new communications director. We have a new technology director and a political director running campaigns and candidates committees. A legislative director who's writing bills that future candidates can run on. And we actually have a podcast now too. Our events director and our technology director, who double as the chair and vice chair of the King County Party, which is the party that includes Seattle. Yeah, they do a podcast, and they're interviewing. They'll interview our legislative director every so often to talk about the bills that we're working on, and they have lots of different guests. So, we're really in a capacity building year, because when you're starting from, not very much engagement and the sort of basics, making sure that you have a savings account and all of those things, and then trying to engage as many people as possible. We've definitely learned a lot this year. I've been chair for 6 months, and we're learning a lot, because we're like, we got to have all these teams. We got to have all these events all the time. And now we're like, wow, people want to volunteer, but we're too busy to figure out what they should do. But we need people to volunteer. So it's definitely a learning experience. Starting teams and not getting burned out. I don't think we're there yet, but we're trying to reevaluate and listen to each other about what we need, and maybe pull back a little bit here, maybe go forward there. So we haven't done a huge amount, for example, with the campaigns committee yet. We're trying to form a structure so that next year people who start running in the spring can have, like a ready-made rolled out program of, okay, we have these volunteers lined up. We have this amount of money that we're going to give you. And we're going to be able to allocate more money to that budget next year. We have a plan for somebody to do graphic design for, signs or whatever it is.
Right.
So yeah, it's hard, because when you're capacity building, sometimes you aren't able to do all of the things that you would want to do. And of course, always in the Libertarian Party, it's like, well, you guys should do this. And we're like, okay, sounds like you just volunteered for the do something committee. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
And so in my time with the Libertarian Party here in Florida, I actually just literally tried to push up my glasses and they aren't there.
I saw that.
I'm wearing contacts, and I was like, let's try to cover it and then call myself out. When I was in the Libertarian Party in Florida, there were a lot of people that were you need to do something about this because this needs to be done, but then nobody wanted to do it. And I was in with a group of people that were much more on we're just going to go out and do it. And then they would get mad at us about how we did it. So when people are saying, you need to do something about this, voluntelling them that they are now part of that committee is a good way to handle it, because then they're involved and they don't get to complain. And then I like the thought process there. That's a good way to handle it. But like all of these parties, and people don't look at it the right way all the time. And you guys, it sounds like you definitely are. They're essentially businesses, and you need to set up different factions of your business in order to make sure that everything runs correctly. And it sounds like you guys have been taking different aspects, being like, okay, so this is going to be the campaign people, this is going to be the financial people, this is going to be the outreach people, and you're ahead of that, and that is the way that these parties need to be run. You can't just meet every once in a while with somebody on the board who's like their treasurer, but it's only because nobody else would run and it would get shut down otherwise. You need somebody out there who knows what they're doing, not some schlub who isn't good at math and not good at saving money. You don't want that guy to be your treasurer, Libertarian Party of Pinellas County. Because I got voluntold for that job. So you mentioned the podcast. Also, I hear that you're making headway on Reddit in different ways.
Well, I mean, yes, I actually haven't checked our Reddit activity super recently, but someone in the party just started posting like our press releases and different kind of statements that we would make on, it was like on our Seattle or something, which is just like a cesspool, or like our Seattle, Washington, which is another cesspool. And it was really fun because some of the stuff, the person, a lot of our members who are on Reddit, some of them are kind of a little bit like maybe from a more lefty perspective, and they're able to talk to people and do say things that are kind of not off-putting, but what's our word I'm looking for, where you're like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. We're posting about things we're doing, and then people are like, oh, well, you're just Trump voters. And then, we're able to respond with like, actually, no, actually, here's what we care about. And then they still kind of want to just like troll, but they can't really do it because we have good answers. So yeah, that was surprising to me to see that we actually kind of got some good responses on Reddit.
Yeah. Reddit is one of the places that has always been a mystery to me, because I always tried to figure it out a couple of different times, and that was whenever Reddit would change their rules, and then I was like, I'm not going to try it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to give it another shot, and then they changed their rules again, and then I was like, no, I'm not dealing with this. It's kind of like YouTube, where I just get tired of all the rule changes, and then I don't know what I'm allowed to say on there anymore.
Yeah, nobody does.
What is the Libertarian Party of Washington Love Committee?
Well, I mean, that was our internal name for it.
This is what I know. Jack Casey's from Washington. And what I know about Jack Casey, I hope he's not the head of this committee.
No, this was the brainchild of one of our board members. And he is somebody who is just really passionate about making people feel welcome in the party, introducing them to libertarianism in ways that's not like yelling, "You're not a real libertarian," or like arguing. His mission, this is our board member Miguel. His mission statement for his life is laying the foundations for a peaceful and voluntary world. And you could have like what you call a membership growth committee, or whatever, a welcome committee, but he's really about love, Miguel. And so we're still rolling that out, because we have a lot of people who would like to be part of the love committee, which is awesome. But we also have people that are very data focused, who are like, okay, we have to centralize our data. We need to have measurable goals. We need to know where people are in the journey. And all of those things are true. And you need both types of people in the party. So we're kind of working on our data a little bit to make sure we actually know, who we're talking to and what notes we're taking and things like that. So you need both. So that's what the left committee is. It's like the welcome committee, because we do a lot of arguing in libertarianism. And honestly, okay, I'm not going to say we don't argue, because I literally was just in the friendly debate channel of our Discord the other night talking about, I can't even remember what. I do it to calm myself. But
you get into mild debates with libertarians to calm yourself. That's an odd way to handle that, but okay.
Yeah, it helps me organize my thoughts. But actually, we get along really well in Washington. We really do. I'm sure there are some people that hate me. Like I probably have enemies that I don't really know about. But we've spent a lot of time, even though we do like to friendly debate, there's not hard feelings here. There have been in our party in the past. But a lot of us from, all different factions have spent a lot of time trying to remember what's most important, that we're all working for liberty. And yeah, we can argue about this or that, but we don't let it poison us. We haven't so far, and that's one of my biggest goals, is to not let that stuff poison us, because it happens in other parties.
It
So
absolutely, yeah.
so yeah, our love committee, it's real.
Yeah, so I was a member of the Libertarian Party of Florida, and I left for a while. I think I'm back now. I'm not even 100% sure anymore. But I left for a little while because we could not get along at all. Anybody in the party. There were different factions and groups, and our chair at the time was a guy named Adrian Wiley, who had run for governor, and he left because he did not like this guy that was running for Senate. And I was not in on the whole faction debate thing inside the party, but I did not like that guy at all. I did not like the guy at all. Okay, I guess you're coming up front. All right. To my audio listeners, that's my dog. But because we didn't like this guy, and he was literally, not figuratively, literally a Nazi, we did not want him representing the, you know who I'm talking about now.
Yeah, well, I was trying to recall, like, okay, when was this time? Because I have an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't want him representing the party, and the party would not vote to say that they would not recognize, like, not that, because you can't say he's not running as a libertarian, because that's a state law. If they're registered as a libertarian and running, they can run. But as a party, they wouldn't reject him. And so the chair was like, I'm leaving. And that caused a bunch of other people to leave. And it was during that time that I was like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't want to be a part of any party that is this screwed up. I will go non-party and just fight for liberty, continue to fight for liberty, and not worry about whatever you guys are doing here. Because if you can't get it together, but it sounds like you guys are coming up with a good plan in order to get it together to make sure that things like him don't happen.
Oh yeah, and Florida is too, man. I know several.
Florida's been doing a great job.
It's a lot better than it used to be.
Oh, it is. That's why I think I'm a member again, because I think Stephen Michaela convinced me to rejoin.
Yeah, you should get involved again. Florida's pretty good.
Yeah, no, Florida's doing a lot of really good work. They cleaned a lot of house.
Yeah.
So I live in Florida, as I'm going to state again, because it's very important for my next question. But recently it came out that I don't have to worry about this, but heating bills are going to go up 51% this year for people who have what they call winter.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't really have that either. I mean,
it
barely gets below freezing here.
Oh, well, that's awful. If it's barely getting below freezing, that's terrible. It barely gets below 60 here.
100 degrees and 100% humidity.
Okay, so I can honestly say I have never lived here one day where it was 100 degrees and 100% humidity.
Was it like 95 degrees and like 90% humidity?
Yes, I get that sometimes, but I have never seen it where it's a actual triple digits here. Yeah, so so apparently you're not gonna have to deal with that in 32-degree weather. But what I understand is your local government is against putting down sand or salt on the roads and want a hard packed surface, which again, that just brings me back to Jack Casey.
Yeah, no, this was years ago. I mean, I don't think they're stupid enough to do the same thing again, but I could be wrong.
It's government.
What happens in Washington, it's the same kind of thing that happens when it rains, because like everyone talks about how it rains so much in Seattle, and it actually doesn't rain that much over the summer usually. But when it does start raining, every single person forgets how to drive in the rain.
Right.
Like everyone forgets. It's like no one has ever driven in the rain before. It's terrible. And that's what happens when it snows. So it is not uncommon that we'll go an entire winter only seeing a few snowflakes. And then every like 10 years or so, we see a huge snowstorm, and no one has chains. No one has all-weather tires. There's like 2 snowmobiles for the entire city of Seattle. I mean, it's probably more than 2, but maybe like probably not more than like 5. I don't know. And they have like no preparedness plan for it. So one year I remember it was like 10 years ago, there was just a huge snowstorm and there's ice everywhere. And people just had to wait weeks and weeks to get the ice cleared. So they would, try to clear it themselves with their little shovels. And they didn't want to salt the roads because that would upset like the delicate ecosystem of the Puget Sound. And they didn't want to sand the roads because of like probably the same thing. I don't know. So that's what they said. They said, well, we're just going to create a hard packed surface for cars to drive on, which is ice. It is black ice. And if you've been to Seattle, you know that Seattle is all hills.
Yes.
And everyone
Yes,
forgets to drive
is.
in the rain. So of course they forget to drive in the snow. Like no one knows how to drive in the snow. It is nuts. Like the car crashes around here. I said once on a previous podcast, like there was one bus that slid down a hill and like crashed over the barrier to I-5 and was like teetering over the interstate. A bus with people on it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, okay, I care about the ecosystem too. I'm like, I can be kind of lefty sometimes. Like, I care about the environment, but at a certain point, like, you're talking about people, human beings' lives. You're not gonna salt the roads. You're not gonna do anything. Like, oh man, it was like 10 years ago. I'm still fired up about it. Last year, maybe 2 years ago, we had another big snowstorm, and I just sat in my little apartment and just like filmed people trying to get in and out of the parking lots because the parking lots are like on hills. Yeah, it's crazy. And I have to believe that a private company who owned the roads would do a much better job of, like keeping people safe on them.
You think?
Pay for them.
Right. Yeah, so I used to live in Nashville, Tennessee. And when I moved to Nashville, I moved there from just outside of DC. And the year that I moved, DC was in the middle of a snowstorm, a blizzard, and there was like 3.5 feet of snow that I drove out of. And Nashville was in their own blizzard. There was like 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch, and people were parked on the sides of the road, hazards on. I'm like just zipping past everybody, going, "What are you doing, you weirdos?" And nobody's going anywhere. But people were sliding down hills, and I was like, "How is this even? How do you guys never get snow here?" And then after I talked to people, they said, "No, we never get snow." But they in Tennessee especially, they absolutely forget how to drive in the rain. And if there is a 1/4 of an inch, a dusting, people will pull over on the side of the road and leave their cars and walk. And it's absolutely insane to me.
Oh yeah, all the schools close here at 1/2 inch. All the schools close.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Yeah. In Virginia where I grew up, if it was 1/2 inch of ice, we would close, or like 2 feet of snow, we would close. There was no, that was it. If it was less than either of those, we were going to school and it was going to be fine. Jacob Blaze said, where did he say it? In Massachusetts, I know it's in here somewhere. In Massachusetts, chains are illegal, which means Massachusetts is really trying to swing away from how they were just a few years ago on chains. But I would imagine Massachusetts would want to have chains, but that's just government definitely not actually protecting the people.
No, I mean, Massachusetts doesn't have like big hills, do they? Or they do get a lot of snow though.
They have a lot of highways, and they have a lot, like they've got a lot. They do have hills, and they get a ton of snow. I lived in Rhode Island for a little bit. They don't want that's all I remember.
It's probably because they don't want the chains to like mess up the pavement, because then they would have to fix it. The asphalt, right?
That could be.
Or do they have to have a reason?
Right. Yeah, like
they probably just want to find people for it.
That's actually a better answer than anything that we could posit right now on why they would do it. Is we just want to find people.
I'm gonna turn my light on real quick. It's getting dark in here. I don't have a light on. Right here.
That's right. You're 3 hours behind me, so it's already dark here.
Well, not just that, but you're not in Florida right now. You are in Florida.
I'm in Florida. Yeah. No,
It's like sunset now, about half an hour.
Yeah. I think the sun went down 2 hours ago here, and we, yeah, and I could still 5 minute trip to the beach and be totally comfortable.
Nice for you.
It's yeah, because we don't have winter or fall. Um, so last week you guys were collecting signatures for a petition I-1436 concerning
Yeah,
the
the
state
long-term.
the state's
Yeah, the
long-term
long-term
care
care
insurance. Can you tell us more about what that is and how it would affect self-employed people?
Yeah, so our legislative team has been working on this, learning about it and informing people about it. It is a new tax on. It's a new payroll tax basically. 58 cents per $100 of earnings, no matter what your income is. And it is to fund long-term care at the end of your life, although the max limit that you could ever receive lifetime benefit is like $33,000 or $36,000. That amounts to, like, if you make $50,000 a year. I did some quick math earlier, but it would be like $300 a year if you make like 50,000, or like twice that if you make 100,000. But you can only opt out between now and like November 1st. And the only way you can opt out is if you buy a private long-term care health plan, or if you are self-employed. So self-employed people on W-2s can opt out permanently. So I'm self-employed. That's what I'm going to do. I hope I still have time to do it. I think I do. Pretty sure it's by November 1st. And really what it is, it's a Medicaid bailout tax, because they can't fund their Medicaid program in the state. So they're just trying to like fund it another way with a new payroll tax. So I don't know what's going to happen with the petition. In Washington, you need a huge amount of petition signatures for an initiative. Maybe it's like this in other states, but we need something like 350,000 signatures just to get an initiative going. And I'm not sure if they're going to get that many. For the Libertarian Party, it's not always like a good we don't have the kind of resources sometimes to get 350,000 signatures, but there are other groups that are working on it. And so that was what we were posting about. There's another group that kind of has more funding, and that are trying to get a certain amount of signatures for a certain amount of funding. So, man, I hope it goes through. But you know what? Even when we do an initiative, and even if we get those signatures, sometimes they literally just ignore us. Like, there was a couple initiatives a while back. Like, there's this guy, Tim Eyman, who's a Republican that is very ridiculous in many ways. And he always has all these petitions for all these initiatives, and they're always like crazy anti-tax things. And he had this $30 car tabs tax. And against all odds, it passed in Washington. The initiative passed. Car tabs should only cost $30, because they cost like hundreds of dollars now, because they just keep adding taxes.
Because they keep adding stuff to it, yeah.
Yeah, and I forget what happened. I forget if it was the Supreme Court or the legislature, but the government was basically like, no, that's not going to happen. And so, like, when you get to the point where initiatives with hundreds of thousands of signatures and millions of people voting for them, they don't even get to be passed. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, this is like on a very, very small scale. This is like what happened with Brexit. They voted to get out, and then the government was like, no, we're going to talk about this for like 5 years. And like, we think that you made the wrong choice.
And so you see that happening all over the place. Like, COVID is a perfect example. People are voted. They're like, no, we don't want this. We don't want these mandates. We don't want this. And they're just like, we're gonna do it anyway. And Christy Nome, South Dakota. In South Dakota, they voted overwhelmingly for, I don't remember if it was medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, but they voted for legalized marijuana of some sort. And she was like, no, I'm not, no, I don't care.
Oh, Christy Nome, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care that you said yes, that the right amount of you said yes. No, we're not going to do that. Sorry, we're just no. And that's
Yeah,
where
and Christy Nome, she gets like sometimes she gets some like kudos from libertarian circles because she was really good in a lot of ways on the COVID mandates on some of them.
right.
But like that is garbage. That is
There,
garbage. Like do not trust Republican politicians.
no, absolutely not. We have DeSantis down here, who I'd never say his
Oh,
first name because,
same.
and like DeSantis, he's good on some things. Like I appreciate what he's been doing with COVID stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not. I have mixed feelings about the executive order that he signed banning any vaccine passports in order to enter businesses.
Right.
I have mixed feelings on that because I don't think he should be able to tell private businesses what to do. But at the same
Right. Is
time,
their
I don't think.
property.
But I also don't think that private businesses should have the right to ask me for my medical information. So I have two different
They can
points of
ask.
view on. So I disagree with that to a point, but I also at the same time I'm like, well, he's protecting my medical freedom and privacy, so I kind of get that. So I'm not 100% sure on that one, but outside of that, but then he'll go and he will boost funding for police, and he will go and
Mhm.
try to make sure that like he hasn't stopped medical marijuana from being a thing, but he's definitely not making it easier for people. And then
Yeah.
there was a lot of private land in the middle of the state that's like the swamp land, the marshland, that he was just like, okay, well the
Yeah.
state's just gonna take this because we need it to make sure. Nope, you're not jumping over that table. Um, that's just dangerous because all of the liquids are right there.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but he took all of this private land and he was like, nope, that's now the government's because we need to make sure that we protect the environment. And I'm all for protecting the environment, but you just took people's private land and said, nope, we are
Yeah.
taking this now. So again, Republican politicians are still going to do things that screw you in one way or another. Um, I know that she's now like, I need to get out of here. You won't let me lick you. That's it.
Nothing
Our audio
fun.
our audio listeners are going, what is he talking about? Why is his girlfriend in there trying to lick him right now? So this weekend there are a mass of mass non-compliance rallies going on across your state. What sort of mandates are you guys dealing with up there? Because here in Florida, there's like none.
Oh man. Well, there's a mask mandate that has been in place since I don't know when. I don't pay attention to it. I try not to wear a mask anywhere I go. But there's a mask mandate in businesses, I think. There is October 18th is the deadline for state workers and all healthcare workers to be vaccinated. So not just
Okay.
there's getting more exceptions all the time. So I can't even remember exactly what groups it applies to, but this would include like any teachers. I'm pretty sure in it might be in private schools too. Healthcare workers, anybody who's kind of like it was going to be home healthcare workers, and then I think the home healthcare workers sort of rebelled, like the unions, and then it was going to be a bunch of other groups. I think maybe even like general contractors and all kinds of groups, like a lot of unionized groups, and the unionized groups are pushing back. And then they're kind of getting waivers, but everybody else who's not in a union is not getting a waiver. So that's October 18th. So, I personally know several nurses who either like got the shot very reluctantly or are, hoping that they don't have to get it, and healthcare workers and different types of people. And then October 25th, so that one was statewide. And then October
Right.
25th is there's a mandate in King County, the county that includes Seattle and Bellevue, that every like restaurant, bar, gym, and place like that has to require vaccines or tests for customer entry.
Right.
So that is wild. And then I just heard today there's another one. I just took a note about it today. Oh, Governor Inslee just unrolled a new mandate: vaccines or tests for any attendees of large events. So we've been finally having like football again and big concerts. So that's going to be wild. I don't know when that one is coming down, but he just announced it today. So yeah.
One of the questions I've had for a lot of different people, and nobody seems to know, and I'm certain it's different state to state, county to county, city to city. But when it says vaccine or proof of negative test, how old can that test be?
Usually it's 48 hours. I mean, I would have to look at it, each exact one, but usually it's 48 hours. And that's kind of stupid because, for example, the PCR test, that the one that they really like, I mean, sometimes it can take, I think it's less now, but at one point it was taking like 5 to 7 days, which is so ridiculous because if you've taken it 5 days ago, but you get your positive result 5 days later, like 5 days later, or your negative result 5 days later, you could have gotten it in the meantime. You can get
Right.
a rapid test, but I can't find any rapid tests anywhere. I've called around at a bunch of pharmacies. Nobody's selling them. Of course, it's your own. I mean, you got to pay $27 for 2 rapid tests before you can go to a restaurant. So, I have never been happier to have left King County. Now I
Oh
live in
yeah,
a
I get
different
that.
county. But,
Yeah,
that could come here too.
right. And here in Pinellas County, that's been like the only. That's why I've enjoyed the saving grace of DeSantis doing what he did, because here in Pinellas County, I think that they would have gone with these vaccine mandates and just said, nope, you need to have them. I know that the rest of Florida isn't doing it, but here you need to. And I think that possibly is why, to keep certain counties from doing it, just steamrolling people that don't agree with it and being like, no, you live here where 51% of the people agree with us, so you're going to have to deal with it. So they just made it sweeping for the entire state. But they definitely would have tried vaccine mandates and vaccine testing mandates here had he not done that. And there's still like my girlfriend Sarah, she is at a concert tonight, and nowhere is allowed to ask for COVID tests or vaccine proof of vaccines, except for concert venues when the promoters of the concert require it for the concert to happen. So she had to go and get, because Live Nation is the one that's requiring it, and otherwise they won't bring any of their people here.
Wow.
So concert venues have been able to do it, and she's like, "Will you go to concerts with me?" And I was like, "Depends on who it is." Like one of my favorite singers, songwriters, performers is Ben Folds. I'm really aging myself with some of the things I've said on the show that I like. But is Ben Folds, and he's coming in November, and I've seen him every time he's been in Florida since I've lived here, and I was really looking forward to seeing him again. But he said you need to show proof of vaccine to come to any of my shows, and he handles all of his own promotion. So I was like, I'm just not going to see Ben Folds this year or possibly ever.
Did you register your complaint with him? Did you pass on your feedback to the manager of the complaints?
I did not, because I found that out 15 minutes before the show. Because I was very excited to buy Ben Folds tickets, and then I found out that I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yes, Mike Gallagher. Ben Folds is awesome and has been since 1994. I know.
Yeah, it's wild. It's hard to imagine that it's going to be anything other than like a bifurcated community, like just two totally different cultures.
It's gonna be. Like I can't see any other way.
Okay, here's a white pill though. Here's a white pill. I think it is changing, and it is changing from people who are just not complying. I mean, we set these things up, this weekend we got Spike coming to Washington. We're having our rallies for mass noncompliance, which
Right.
we're having one in Seattle, which is like the belly of the beast. So
Right.
I don't know how that one's going to go, but I'm really excited to see how it goes. And like, we are not the only ones. Just over the past week, when we set this up maybe a month ago, we thought like, I don't know if people are going to show up. People in Seattle, people are going to be scared. What are things going to look like? And just over the past few weeks, as these mandates, like Biden's mandates and Jay Inslee's mandates, are coming down, things are happening. Like it was every day I would wake up and I would see the news and I'd feel like, oh my gosh, I'm having another white pill for breakfast because the Southwest thing where all of the Southwest, I mean, I don't know if this really happened. Maybe you know because you're in Florida, but I just hear these murmurings about air traffic controllers walking out in Jacksonville or maybe sicking out or something. But they
Yeah.
never really said it. They were just like air traffic control issues. And the Southwest Pilots Union, I think, is suing the government or something. So, but
Yeah.
basically, they got Southwest to back down. In Washington State, we had 150 plus ferry sailings canceled on Friday. So, in a regular month, it's either a regular month or a regular day. Either way, it doesn't matter because it's a huge number. They have like four. They cancel 4 ferries. And on Friday, they canceled 150. So, obviously, there's a reason why they have an unexplained cruise shortage. And then there was other ones too. I think Amtrak was canceling a bunch of
Yep.
trains.
Joe Biden's
So
love child. Yeah.
yeah,
Joe Biden's
it
love
is
child.
happening. It is
It
happening.
is happening.
And they're not telling us about it, but it is happening. And we just have to keep doing it. We have to keep non-complying. We have to like find every way to like avoid or circumvent or get around the mandates or just ignore them. Like we have to. And still, I feel like I'm the only one. Sometimes if I walk into a place without a mask, I'm the only one. But all you need is one. And then maybe there's going to be 2. And then maybe there's going to be 3. So yeah, it's crazy.
And that's been, I have been not wearing, like I don't wear a mask. Okay, I wear a mask to work to my day job because I like getting paid.
Sometimes you have to do that.
Right. It is the one thing that I break down on where I'm like, okay, fine. But I've been arguing it a lot recently because there is new guidelines from the CDC. There's new guidelines from the CDC saying that people who are vaccinated need to wear masks if you're in a high risk area. And I'm like, we're not changing these guidelines. So why not? Why do I have to wear one? You're not following CDC guideline. That's going to get me in so much trouble tomorrow. I already know it. Just because I said that. But it is one of those things where you have to choose where your line is. And me wearing a mask to work is not like I will wear the mask to work because I love my job and I love what I do. But I do have my line and many of the people know it and they understand what will happen if they attempt to cross that line. Like they will lose me and other people because we will not do it. And we have our line staked out. We have our line staked out.
It is a good question to ask yourself as a libertarian also, because I know there are some places who even, regardless of what the CDC says or what a specific mandate says, regardless of whether they actually think they're going to get fined, some places just want to require masks. So it is a really good question to ask, and you need to make sure that you have a good libertarian answer for it where, okay, how much do you respect private property? And the same with a vaccine. How much do you respect private property? If they are voluntarily choosing to require a vaccine to enter, I don't agree with that, but it is their property. I mean, they could ask me to wear a silly hat or like take my shoes off to enter. And, that's not that different from wearing a mask. And so the Libertarian Party platform is clear. Everybody has the right to voluntarily choose what they want to do on their property. And that right is like it doesn't have anything to do with what the government says or what democracy says.
Right.
And it also, the platform also says, individuals are free to respond with boycotts and ostracizing and other free market solutions. In the past, there have been some, kind of civil disobedience. I remember Scott Horton talking about this. He was like, listen, they do have a right to ask what they want on their property, but maybe you do a little civil disobedience. And if they, escort you out, and if they take you to jail or if they charge you, well, then, you're taking that risk and you did, disregard their private property. So you should maybe bear the consequences of that. And I think that is a choice that every person has to make. The party is clear on what private property is. If a person wants to do civil disobedience, then you accept the consequences of, the damages for your actions, whatever those might be. So it's a good question.
It is. So before I let you go and ask you to plug all of the events that you got coming up, what I've got one last question for you. Which landmark in Seattle is more famous for needles, the Space Needle or Kurt Cobain's grave?
I've never been to Kurt Cobain's grave. I don't even know where it is in Seattle.
I don't know.
But I would say, which landmark is the most famous for needles? I would say the bushes at the 45th overpass that's right next to the kids' playground area, the family park. That's what I would say is the most famous for needles.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, I went to the one time I went to Seattle. I've got cousins that live there, and I went to go visit them, and I was just like, wow, it is not just in the movies. Everybody here is literally on heroin. Literally all of you. That's amazing.
It's gotten a lot worse. And
Has
every
it
police
really?
officer, oh yeah, it's gotten a lot worse in the past 10 years. There's all these kinds of things. Literally every police officer that I talk to wants to propagandize me about how we can't do anything. Anytime that I've ever interacted with one in the past 5 years or more, they're like, well, the laws make it so that we can't do anything. Oh, you want us to find someone stole your car? We can't do anything. Oh, someone is following you? Oh, we can't do anything. So there's a lot going on between the legislature and the cops and crime and homelessness and the drug war.
Well, I have to say, I applaud you for spreading liberty in that state, because that cannot be an easy task. And the fact that you are getting it together and bringing people into the party, stop it, that's weird. I'm live on the air. The fact that you're successfully doing this and organizing it it brings hope to people in other states. They're like, how do we do it? You are building a roadmap for them to make it easier for everybody. So on behalf of any party out there that's struggling, trying to figure out organization, we thank you, because you are making that roadmap for people. And you're doing a great job at it from everything that I'm hearing. A lot of people in the comments have been talking about how great you are.
Oh, excellent. My two fans. That must be my my two friends in the party. Well, we're trying, man. We're trying. And we have so many people who want to volunteer and so many people who have been working so hard. When I first joined the party, I said, how many hours a week am I supposed to do this? And they said, 2 hours a week. That's all. And there are so many people who have been putting in way more than 2 hours a week. All of my directors and the people, especially, and the people on their teams, man, there's a lot of people who don't have titles and that are putting in a huge amount of volunteer work. This does not work without volunteers on a regular basis.
That's true.
None of it works. You can have good ideas and none of it works. So, yeah, well, anybody who is from out of state, come visit Washington. We will show you a good time, despite King Inslee. Anybody in Washington, you can join the party at lpwa.org, or you can just subscribe to our emails and find out about our events. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And when you join the party, you can join our Discord, which is where we have all of our friendly debates and all of our collaboration for work. So it's good stuff, man.
And make sure that you pitch your state podcast as well, because somebody said she needs a show.
Oh, yes. I don't know if I have the URL, but I think it is WashingtonLibertarians.buzzsprout.com. It's on Buzzsprout.
Okay.
And we didn't talk about Spike's visit almost this whole time, but Spike is coming to Washington for the weekend. We're doing a 3-city tour. It's a little bit wild. Brian was like, well, I don't know if I would have chosen to do this many events in a weekend. But we're crazy in Washington. So he's coming to Seattle, Westlake Park tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. And then a dinner after. Richland, Washington, 2 to 4 p.m. on Saturday. And then a dinner after. And then a gun range day in Spokane on Sunday. It is at lpwa.org/mass noncompliance.
/mass non-compliance. I'm actually going to put that in the show notes, which
Oh,
you think
thank
I would have, you think I would have been prepared for that, lpwa.org, but I wasn't /mass. Got to make sure I don't do the thing that Spike did and misspell mass non-compliance. I know how to spell mass non. Yes. Okay. Spike on Tuesday. Spike was pushing it. On Tuesday, Spike was pushing it, and he put too many S's in mass. And
Oh no.
and like it was just the comments started flooding. It was like error message 404. And I was like, I think you messed up on it. And he was
Sorry.
like, oh,
We all do it sometimes.
well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I know that my dog here also appreciates it because she has never actually tried to get on camera while I've done this, and she did for you. So I assume that it's the only thing I can assume is it's you. But I am going to close out the show. If you want to hang out for a little bit afterwards, we can talk a little bit more. And if you have to go, that's cool too. But either way, thank you for everything you're doing in Washington. I can't wait to hear about more things going on there. And I look forward to whatever you have happening next, because I'm imagining there's a lot more coming from your state.
Well, I'm not too tired yet, and neither are the rest of us. So thank you so much, Matt, and thank you to all the commenters. I haven't seen your comments, but yeah, thanks again.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you. To everybody else, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I definitely appreciate it. Again, you spend your Thursday evenings with me instead of watching the NFL, and I can understand that because I'm better looking than most of the players. So tomorrow, I don't know if there's an episode of Cajun and Eskimo tomorrow. We will have to find that out later together. And then on this weekend, Spike's going to be in Washington, as you just heard. And then next week on Monday, Jason has Jessica Etheridge on his show, Mr. America, The Bearded Truth, 8 o'clock Eastern. And then on Tuesday, join me and Spike right here for a brand spanking new episode of the Muddied Waters of Freedom, where Spike Cohen and I will parse through the week's events like the sweet, awesome autumn cherubs that we are. And then on Wednesday, you are not going to believe who Spike's next guest is. You are going to have to tune in later to find out who that next guest is. But that guest is going to blow your mind, who that next guest is. And then right here, next Thursday on the Writer's Block, Natalie Bruno is going to be joining me for an episode right before some big event happening in Oklahoma City that I wish I could be at, but I cannot, to the people in the comments that were asking me to come. I do appreciate it, and I wish I could be there, but I cannot. Your fun fact of the week is one of President John Tyler's grandsons is still alive today. And John Tyler was born in 1790. The guy lives in Virginia. I've been by his house. I thought about going in, but I didn't. But yeah, he is still alive today because John Tyler had his son when he was 63, and then his son Lion, and then Lion's son was born when he was 75. So John Tyler, who was born in 1790, has a grandson alive today. Enjoy that wonderful piece of information. Have a great weekend. Tune in tomorrow for Cajun and Eskimo if there is a show. If not, enjoy your Friday night off and watch the ALCS and root for Boston. And enjoy your weekend. And I will see you all next week. Have a fantastic and wonderful life.
I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. Singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help.